No, you don't need the. I'm doing legend. He a 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 legend. Welcome to the league. 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 Welcome to the league. 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 Pike on money. Pike on money. Pike on money. We make it pike.
What's up, everybody? It's Pikel with League of Items, and in today's video, we are going to talk about all of the games for tomorrow. But before we do that, let's talk about the games from yesterday. So there were matches in the LPL LCK. DRX crashed out of playoffs. I was pretty sad about that one. It was pretty interesting watching the last 3 games of that series. That's when I woke up. And there was like this idea floated on the cast that DRX was playing Lethality Xayah because they thought that Teddy was a Xayah one trick. Where like they didn't say that that was for sure the case why they were doing it. But that's the kind of thing that really frustrates me with like professional League of Legends teams is that they will often have these gigantic changes to how they approach the draft based on how the enemy team like looks at the game, where I still think the correct way to draft in League of Legends is to have actual opinions about the meta, and if you can get the best champions onto your team and you know how to play the best champions, then it should be fine. And I think like game 3 they lost. It was Xayah against Jinx and they lost that game. That stuff just blows my mind. It's very frustrating to watch. And I do think that Kwangdong deserved to win the series based off of what I saw. But like it was a very close match with DRX not playing at their best and not necessarily having the best drafting strategy. Zika looked pretty good at times, which I think is good for them long term. Kingen left a little to be desired in certain points, but I think a lot of people were kind of thinking that Keen would just destroy him altogether. And like he played pretty well. I guess that was game 3 when it was the Gragas match, and they made it sound like he was like the best Gragas ever. Where I don't know, it seemed like a good Gragas performance, but we've seen people play Gragas at that level before. Which is not to say anything negative about Keen, like, good for you. But I think that they kind of just want to hype Keen up again. Where, you know, is he the best? Is he one of the best top laners in the LCK when Nuggery's not playing and Kana's on a bad team and, like, all that kind of stuff? Maybe, but I don't know. Sort of tough for me to see that one. But at the end of the day, it doesn't really matter because whoever won that match was most likely going to get picked by T1 and then lose to T1. So I'm sure that'll happen relatively soon. FPX beat OMG, so that one was that was the other day. LNG beat OMG yesterday. Well, I guess today still. That was 2-1. OMG, they're not a horrible team. Like, I think that it's going to be another spot where next season we want to like bet on them pretty consistently. Hopefully they make like an off-season change. I think that Cream is definitely good enough to build a team around. So it just depends on what happens with Cream. The real best case scenario is for Cream to go to another team that's pretty good. And then hopefully that team just like does extremely well. So like who could I see Cream going to? Like if Cream went to Ultra Prime, I think they're probably not that good. If Cream went to World Elite, maybe that doesn't really change things either. Cream going to FPX, maybe that would be interesting. Probably not big enough of a change. Cream going to Invictus. There's got to be some good match out there for them. But that's enough of that. So tomorrow we have RNG playing against OMG. I don't think that it really matters. It doesn't matter to get another team in the playoffs. It just matters for seeding, I think, for RNG. we could actually take a look at that. So I think it determines the 3-4 seeding because of strength of schedule and stuff like that. So right now, RNG and JDG are not seeded. The rest of the playoff bracket is completely done. So they will slot into these two. They'll slot into this spot right here. So seed number 3 and seed number 2. Did I say 3 and 4? I guess it's 2 and 3. 2 and 3. Yeah, 2 and 3. LNG is the 4 seed. So they get to skip this portion of the bracket, which is good. Duenby was talking about that on one of his streams. They mentioned that on... I think I saw that on Twitter. But yeah, so tomorrow we have OMG against RNG. RNG, gigantic favorite. I would bet OMG to... I would bet OMG to win one of the maps. I would bet them to win the first game of the match. And then depending on how that looked, maybe bet on game 2 instead, or game 2 as well. It's an important match for RNG. Is there any incentive to them losing intentionally? Definitely not. Definitely not. It's either you're in round 4 or round 3. I'm pretty sure it's better to be in round 3. 1, 2. This is looking weird to me, but whatever. We'll move on from that. So LCK, we didn't have the teams pick who they're going up against yet for the next round. Yes, we did. There's no odds out for it on Odds Portal. So T1 against Guangdong Freaks, we're playing T1, and Genji against Damwon Kia. I think that people will probably think that Damwon is better than they're going to play Damwon more than they kind of deserve to after the split they've had. It's funny because both of these teams, in some real way, are underrated compared to their power level with T1. Because a lot of people out there think that T1 is so much better than Genji and Damwon. I really don't think that's the case. I think it's probably a decent amount closer than the records would suggest. But for the Damwon against Genji matchup specifically, I think that Doran against Birdall, they're both very good top laners. I think that Birdall has the potential to be better than Doran. Like Doran's peak, I think that Birdall could have a higher peak than Doran at some point during his career. Canyon against Peanut. Canyon is the better player. Canyon, during Canyon's career, his peak has been higher than Peanut's, and he's also the younger player with comparable experience in terms of the significant matches they've played in. So I think that Peanut can definitely contest the early game, could theoretically get drafted into a good situation against Canyon, and definitely has a stronger AD carry, has a more consistent top laner, has a different kind of mid laner. Like Chovy and Showmaker, they're two of the best mid laners in the world, but they are just so different in terms of how they approach the game and their unique champion pools. Like, not saying that they both have unique champion pools, but their champions outside of what's regarded as the meta is unique to them. I think you probably understand what I mean. So that's basically it. I personally would pick I think that Genji should be listed as like a minus 140 favorite. So anything under that, like if it's closer than that, I would probably want to be on Genji's side. It might not be enough for me to really feel confident in betting it. And then with Damwon, I think that if it's plus 140 or greater, I'd probably just want to bet on Damwon because it does seem like a pretty close match. I think that the most interesting thing to happen in this match would be for Damwon to sweep Genji, and then we'll have T1 against a on fire Damwon, and it would be cool to see how far public sentiment can swing in that one round, because I think it'd be kind of extreme. People be like, "Oh, Damwon's back! They finally clicked," and all that kind of stuff, and that's always a good time to just double down on T1. But yeah, so that means that that's my first region with all of my potential winning teams gone. So that's kind of sad. But we don't expect to really win all four of them. I'm looking pretty good in the LPL, I think. But let's move on to the LEC. So tomorrow we have the first playoff match. We have Rogue against Misfits. And I think that enough time has passed where people will latch on to whatever narratives were like the most prevalent when the season ended a few weeks ago. And I think the ideas that probably stick out are that Rogue had some trouble in the early game. People are trying to reinforce their ideas of why Rogue isn't necessarily much better than the rest of the teams in the region. And that Misfits has had a good season overall. You know, Vetio has looked really good. I think they ended up selecting him for first team all league. And then Odoamne and Malrong were both selected as the first team, all pro first team. And then it was Upset and Hillsong in the bot lane, which like I don't really disagree with Upset and Hillsong being selected. The Malrong one is, I think, correct. Just a little surprising. I don't know who else they really could have given it to, though. I guess they could have tried to give it to Razork, but I think that Malrong is the right choice. In the matchup between Rogue and Misfits, I think that we kind of just have to think that Rogue is the better team. I think that Odoamne against Hyrit is not some gigantic differential between the two. I think that Odoamne's played well, and he can play both sides of most matchups, and so can Hyrit. Malrong against Zlatan. This is definitely the spot where I think they can exploit, and I wish that the line wasn't this big. I don't remember what it was earlier on, but I do think that Zlatan is going to be a liability in this series, and not because I think he's a bad player, but I think that Rogue should attack Zlatan's champion pool and get rid of the Lee Sin because he played a ridiculous amount of Lee Sin. Misfits also had a ton of games that they would lose most of the time because they were very low percentage chances to win. And every time that we talk about this, it's like, yes, you know, you need to be good enough to take advantage when the other team throws the game away, and all that stuff is definitely true. But I don't think Rogue will do that as often, and I think that we haven't seen the best from Malrong, and I don't think we've seen the best from Larson, and I don't think we've seen the best from Comp. I think that Larson has not been as good as he can be this split, same with Malrong, and then Comp, we've seen Comp play well at different points throughout his career, but he's never like really carried a team for an extended period of time against other good opponents. And this is a spot where, whether or not it's like a good thing, I think that if Rogue beats Misfits as easily as I think that they will, or I kind of do think they'll just beat him easily. I think Comp is going to get a lot of the credit for it if he has any of these pop-off kinds of games, and then people will really think that Rogue is a super good team, and then that's when you want to start betting against them. Like if Rogue dominated Misfits and Fnatic and G2 have a close match, and then it's Rogue against Fnatic, like I could see the line getting... The line probably wouldn't move that much because Fnatic is a very popular team as well. But that's when I would start questioning, like, you know, if everybody thinks that Comp is somewhat close in terms of talent to Upset, then I want to be against Rogue at that point, which would hurt very much because I don't want to bet on or for Yamato Cannon or with Yamato Cannon, whatever the correct phrasing is. Yeah, so I think that Rogue will win. Before we move on, let's see if I completely whiffed on the Thrive Fantasy, and I've been doing that a little recently in some of these videos, is forgetting to do that during the intro. But if you want to help support the channel, make sure you check out thrivefantasy.com. Let me see if they have any prop contests up, and also the DraftKings contests for like the championship. They're going to do a League of Legends live final. That'll be pretty cool. I'll probably try to chase after that. Let me get the... Yeah, so they do have LEC Friday best of 5. Wow. Okay. Let's see. No, they're not out yet. There's going to be some kind of League of DraftKings contest for that. So on Thrive Fantasy, if you want to help support the channel, go to Thrive Fantasy, thrivefantasy.com. Use the promo code Pikel. If you do a $10 deposit and play in a contest, you get 2 $20 contest entries. If you deposit $100, you get 4 $20 contest entries. You get a 100% deposit match up to $100. Use the promo code Pikel. Link is in the description. So we have props for this match specifically. So these are best of 3s. These are best of 5s. So in 5 games. So they want you to... This was an interesting one. So I'm not going to go through every single... I guess I can go through every single one of these. But my mentality while I go through these is that I'm going to say that Rogue 3-0 Misfits. And the reason why I would do that for this video is because, like, if you're playing on Thrive Fantasy in like a larger contest and you want a chance to come in first place, then you want to be a little different. And I think most people will guess that it's going to be a 3-1, 3-2. They'll probably take some overs on the kill props for Misfits because if they win, you know, it should be good for them. But I think that the more interesting angle is to have like Rogue just dominate. So let's see what that would look like. That would make it more likely that Hyrule does not get to 12.5 kills in 3 games. He'd have to average over 4 kills in those 3 games. It's really the best case scenario. The deaths for Schlatan in 3 games, that's not very much. That's way too much. So you'd bet the under on that one. I don't think I love that one. Well, actually, 3. This one seems like a good one, even if the game goes 4 or 5. Even if the match goes 4 or 5 games, because like how often is he gonna die 4 times a game throughout the match? Like if they win 1 or 2 games, it'll probably be an under, I think. Vetio with 13.5 assists. I think you can feel pretty good about the over on that one. 5-5-4. That doesn't seem terrible. Like they would need to win a game in that scenario, so I would think about that one. Take the over. Neon kills plus deaths. I guess this one is also if. I wonder if there's like some interesting statistic where Vetio's kill participation is like out of line, or out of line with like normal kill to assist ratios, where he has like a disproportionate share of kills. Neon 31.5 kills plus deaths. This one seems like you're just betting like how many games will the series go. I think under's probably better. Let's see, 20 to 15. 15 times 4 is 60. 60 times... It would have to be kills. 60 times 0.2 is 12. Yeah, that seems like a pretty good under. Mursa over under 8.5 kills. I think the under is obvious on that one, but you're not going to get the good points on that one. So then for this, the Rogue ones are the ones that I think are more in line with what I actually think. I would bet the under for Odoamne deaths. I would definitely bet the over on that one. Even in losses, like 16.5 should be easy for Malrong to get. 42.5 kills plus deaths. Oh God! If it's 3 games, you're just not going to get to it. That one's sketchy. That seems very unlikely. 1, 2, 3. Yeah, I don't think I could bet the over on that one. Just because how many times does it only go 3 or 4 games and then you don't even have a chance at that number, like 8. So if they go like 6-2 in a game, that's 8. And it's not enough. Like that seems pretty insane. Comp over under 21.5 kills. I think you can bet the under on that one. Actually, no, you can't. Man. In a win. The under seems like the right side of that. But if you wanted the over, I could see it. And this is one that you'd probably just want to flip a coin on anyways because it's 100 points either way. The 21.5 seems like a pretty good number. So, again, it depends on how many games you think that set actually goes. And then Trimby over under 28.5 deaths. I would say under. That's an easy one. So I'd say definitely under for there. Under for there. Those two are very good. Neon, I kind of like that one a decent amount. Vetio, I like that one a decent amount. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So those would be my 5. Trimby, under deaths. Otoamne, under deaths. Neon, under kills plus deaths. Vetio, over assists. Hyrit, under kills. So let's move on to the LCS. So I was watching the dive, or listening to the dive, and I want to make a video responding to some of the things that they talk about because it's so weird listening to their like justifications for what they believe in, not because I think that their result is wrong, but because the way they get there is just so bizarre sometimes. And I think that I've been pretty clear that Mark is the one that I disagree with the most often. Kobe, sorry. Kobe seems like sometimes he feels forced to like say the opposite side of things, and then Azael kind of just speaks his mind. And I think that I probably agree with Azael most of the time. And I respect his opinion, and I respect Kobe's opinion pretty much. And Mark is like really hit or miss. Like today, I kind of agreed with Mark more often than I normally do, because he was at least holding his opinion like consistently. But their opinions on teams is kind of weird. And this is why I want to talk about it. So they were talking about North America's strength relative to other regions, and they were using world's records as justification for like how well they performed relative to other regions. But this is the same false interpretation as when Bwipo was like, oh yeah, Summit hasn't gone to Worlds, so he doesn't play against a bunch of good top laners. It's like you can have a good record at Worlds because you're in a weaker group, or you can get into the knockout round because you're in a weaker group. And there's a reason why the teams from North America, while they're not as bad as a lot of the other regions, they're not as good as the LEC or the LCK or the LPL. They're definitely not LCK or LPL. Some of the teams from the LCS, I think, are good competition for the LEC, and I wish we saw more of that. Especially at international events, because like if Cloud9 or Team Liquid went up against Rogue or Fnatic tomorrow, I think a lot of people would just be like, oh, LEC is so much better than the LCS. And I would like the LCS in both of those matches with odds. So like if I was getting them at plus 140, plus 150, like I want to take the LCS side of things because right now the LEC is probably a little overrated relative to the LCS. So like that's kind of my point, where ultimately I agree with the sentiment that like Team Liquid and C9 are relatively strong in some capacity, but not to the extent that they're talking about it, where it's like clear that they're better than a lot of these other regions, or at least competitive with LEC, LPL, LCK, when in reality the way that you should really be measuring your own team in those scenarios is by like what chance do they actually have of winning Worlds. And like that's the most important thing. It really should be the most important thing for all these teams. And they also talked about the Evil Geniuses organization, like, maybe they get Jensen, maybe they sub out Jojo Pion and like bring in Jensen, and Jensen can like save the summer and like get them to Worlds. And it's like, getting to Worlds is not the goal. Being competitive at Worlds is the goal. We know what Jensen's ceiling is. Jensen isn't a bad player. I'm not saying that Jensen is a bad player. He's better than a lot of the players in the LCS. He might even be better than Jojo Pion right now. But his ceiling is not as high as it used to be, and he is not good enough to be the mid laner on a team that needs their mid laner to be competitive at Worlds. We don't know if Jojo Pion can do that. Is it likely that he does? No, of course not. But at least he has that theoretical upside. He's so young. Getting him experience is so much better for the long-term success of Evil Geniuses. It doesn't even need to be discussed. And that's really what needs to be said more directly, I think. Because when we entertain these ideas from fans that probably aren't very good at the game, don't understand the game, just in some way, yes, just that. It becomes too much like the classic traditional sports media where you have a lot of these big, stupid opinions that are just like they're fundamentally misguided. And I know that you want to engage these kinds of ideas because they're interesting to talk about, or you might get some kind of reaction from people. But then you're just perpetuating bad modes of thinking. So it's all, I guess, kind of just frustrating from that perspective. And maybe part of that is my frustration for EG not playing better so far this split. But I think that will turn around. So in tomorrow's matches, we have 5 games in the LCS. This is a super week, so there are 15 games this weekend. First up, CLG against Immortals. CLG is listed as the favorites. I think you have to go with Immortals in that spot. I don't think Revenge is good, but he's just as good as Jenkins. Then Contracts has had a pretty nightmare split. Xerxes is probably better than him. Luger and Poom against... I don't know who they're going to start in the bot lane for Immortals, but I'll probably prefer that side of the matchup. No, I won't. No, yeah, okay, fine. Bot lane, definitely CLG favored. And then Palafox against Power of Evil. Definitely prefer Power of Evil. It's a close match. I would hope that this line... 114 to 116. I would want Immortals there. I feel like Immortals should be listed as the favorite. TSM against 100 Thieves. 100 Thieves has been playing pretty well recently. Everybody thought they were kind of dead. Not sure why. They're definitely a better team than TSM. TSM at plus 225 is somewhat interesting, but I think it's just a stay away from me. Yeah, that's a stay away. Dignitas against Cloud9. I mean, you just kind of have to go for Cloud9. Team Liquid against Golden Guardians. That's pretty interesting. Like, Golden Guardians is a very good early game team, but that seems pretty difficult for them to be able to get a lead that makes you feel comfortable against a team of Team Liquid's caliber. Evil Geniuses against FlyQuest. I feel like you definitely have to take Evil Geniuses there, but, those are all just the favorites. I guess you're getting good odds on FlyQuest. The fact that they're such a big dog. They've been losing a lot recently, but they did pick up a win in their last match. Did they beat Evil Geniuses earlier this season? FlyQuest. No, EG has beaten them already. Okay. That makes me feel a little bit better. That's pretty boring. So I'd want to bet on Immortals. TSM. So Huni against Someday. It's kind of whatever. Spica against Closer. Spica is a lot closer to Closer than people probably want to admit right now. Takeover against Abadaga. I could see them winning this. I could see TSM winning. I guess that's the spot that I kind of want to attack tomorrow. Dig against C9. That's I can't convince myself. This one I could also see betting the underdog at 225 and 262. Like these are the numbers that you kind of want to look for. Golden Guardians is a good early game team, and that is one way that you can beat Team Liquid. Not that it's like a deficiency in Team Liquid's game. It's just like, if you're going to beat a team that is good, the best time to beat them is early because it means you're playing aggressive and can snowball the game. So I think I would take a shot there. And then Evil Geniuses against FlyQuest. I'm not betting against Evil Geniuses at this point in the season because then it's like I'm rooting for them to lose. And if they lose, they could miss playoffs. So I don't want that. But that's basically it. I don't have anything else for you today. Hopefully some different types of videos coming out soon. Once the playoff picture is solidified in the LCS. And then we'll just do those kinds of videos moving forward. I'll make probably a video similar to my LCK one for the LCS. It did better than the LEC individual team stuff. And maybe tier list again. When the regular season is over and all the splits, I'm gonna do like a Pykel reacts, and then I'm gonna watch my preseason stuff and comment over it. That'll be interesting. I've never done something like that before, but that should be cool. So thanks for watching. Make sure you like, comment, subscribe. If you want to support the channel, check out thrivefantasy.com, promo code Pykel. But again, thanks for watching, and I'll talk to you later.